I'm Jamie Seeker, and this is What It Takes. Each episode, I sit down with real business owners to talk about their journey, the wins, the challenges, and everything in between. Let's dive in. Welcome back to What It Takes. Today, we have an incredible guest joining us. Ralph Marucci is the co-founder and CEO of Hydr8, a company on a mission to revolutionize the way that we think about hydration. Since 2017, Ralph has been leading Hydr8 to provide cutting-edge, sustainable drinking water solutions for businesses, all while reducing environmental waste. So in today's episode, we're going to explore Ralph's journey, how his personal experiences and professional background led him to create Hydr8, the challenges that he faced along the way, and the incredible sustainability mission that's driving the company forward. So grab a drink, preferably water, and let's dive in. Hi, Ralph.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So let's just talk first about this concept. So, from concept to creation, can you tell us about your background and what inspired you to co-found Hydr8?
Yeah, it's actually a little bit of an interesting story. I'll keep it tight. I started with a venture capitalist actually when I was 22 years old on Wall Street. From the New York City area, and this was back in 2007. Just to age me a little bit, he came up with this concept. So I can't say that I created the idea from scratch myself. It was a bottleless system that was meant to replace 5-gallon jugs and single-use bottles in the workplace. I was pretty excited about it, and then recruited a bunch of my friends from the local area, and we all started selling this stuff, and it was going really well, to the level by which we started our own. Actually, we broke off of him way back then and ran our own company for about 6 years. And just to kind of, long story short, I ended up leaving those guys because I learned a hard lesson about equity, which we can talk more about. If you got some entrepreneurs out there, get it in writing. So as a young guy, I learned a lot about this sort of thing, and then went to the medical world for 5 years, worked for J&J, was in the operating room for about 5 years, technically advising surgeons on orthopedic surgeries, which I consider like the major league of sales. And then it was my business partner now, who's my best friend from college, who was the blue collar end of that original company, that was like, hey, we should go and start our own. And I was like, nah, been there, done that, not going back into water. And he was like, yeah, but look at the numbers. And it was like 85% of the market was still drinking plastic. And, talking about billions and billions of dollars obviously spent on water. He's like, let's do it. Let's do it right. Treat people right the way we know how. And it wasn't long after that we started Hydr8, right in the very beginning of 2017, and about to complete 8 years. So pretty exciting.
That is huge. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you hit so many gold nuggets in there, but the one thing that stands out to me is you're like, "Oh yeah, 2007," and that dates you. And I'm like, "Oh, that's all I could hear after that was that 2007 date." I'm like, "If 2007 dates you, then I'm not even gonna throw out any dates that refers back to me."
I mean, yeah, I was right out of college at that point,
Oh.
too, and yeah, I'll be turning the big 4-0 in February on the Super Bowl, actually.
Well, hey, oh, that's fun. That's fun.
Yeah.
Well, lots of milestones there. So let's just talk about then once you kind of established Hydr8, and obviously you decided to go in with them, and you're now looking at your workplace situation. How does Hydr8 differentiate itself from traditional water solutions like bottled water or standard filtration systems that are out there?
Yeah, that's great. So there's a couple of pieces. So Hydr8 is a company that procures the potentially greatest water systems that are on the market, which most people don't have any clue what the heck that means. Because they're like, "Ah, water is water." And I tell them, if water is water, in your opinion, I'm not your guy. And that kind of gives people a sense as to like, well, I guess there's a difference between one water system or the other. So you have like your refrigerator that has a tiny little filter in it. We have that filter plus about 5 more. So you don't have to be a water nerd like me to know that 5 or 6 is better than 1, right? So that's on the filtration side, and I'm going to talk more about that. But the bottled water side, spring water can be very good, especially at the source. However, when it's packaged in plastic, as we all know in this day and age, unlike when I first started, education and information were at a low. Now it's at a high. um, People know that microplastics are rampant. We take in about a credit card's worth of plastic every week, and a lot of that can come from your bottled water. The reason being is that plastic can leach into the water. Not only that, but the molecular shape of water changes as it's packaged. What it's meant to be consumed as, a fresh flowing source like a river or a stream. However, we've messed that up. Even tap water is fresh flowing, except it has pipes wrapped all around it that are aging, up to, God knows, in New York City here, 200 years old in some cases. So we have a host of contaminants, pharmaceuticals, lead, mercury, arsenic, all kinds of chemicals that you can take in, and that's not safe for your body. So what we do is we work off the end of the pipe. So irrespective of what's in the pipe, we're going to purify it down to zero effectively. So if you have any of the sediment, any of the carbon, any of the heavy metals that are in the water, we're going to reduce all that down to basically zero. And then we want to add good electrolytes and minerals back into the water. So you don't want to drink zero water either. That's not healthy for you. You do want those minerals. We add calcium, potassium, magnesium, and sodium, making it really the healthiest, not just the cleanest drinking water station that you can have without the plastic, if that summarizes it neatly for you.
Oh, that is amazing. So many things. You said if water is water, then you're not the guy, but I am definitely your girl. I told you before we started, there is all water is not created equal. I will tell you that right now as somebody who
You're right.
is constantly drinking water all day. But I love kind of what you were talking about with sustainability a little bit. You're kind of moving toward that with talking about plastic and whatnot. Can you elaborate on Hydrate's commitment to sustainability?
Yeah, so we started out with a goal of saving 1 billion single use or 5-gallon jug bottles by 2030. To date, according to how we've tracked this, and I can get into the details on how we come up with these numbers, we are at about 300 million bottles saved. So we're doing pretty well, more or less on track, because we are growing and that number is cumulative. So we basically assume, had we never gone to this business, they would keep using these single-use bottles. So that's how the number continuously adds up exponentially, to equate to that number. So every hydration station that we put in the field can save hundreds of thousands of single-use bottles in its lifetime. So these machines are made very, very well, some of which have the bottle counter on them, which you may be familiar with in certain fountains. They tell you, hey, you saved X amount of plastic bottles from being used, which is all true. It counts how many ounces you're drinking and equates that to usually 16-ounce bottles. So each one of these stations that we put out obviously replaces the need for bottled water. We kind of gauge how much bottled water that customer was drinking prior to us coming in, and then we continue to add it up over time. So these hydration stations can do a real phenomenal job if you think about the amount of production and plastic and trucking and shipping and even manual labor of like taking them out of cases and putting them in refrigerator, and storage issues, especially in big cities like New York where storage is a premium. So it doesn't just check the sustainability box, which it absolutely does, and you get like kind of a refill bottle and pair it with a refill station like this one, but you can also save operational costs. So what I like to say is the cost of bottled water starts at the bottom line. So whatever that bill is per month, you can add to it time, space, labor, energy, and of course the environmental costs and hazards that it can have. And all of this is done with just one simple turnkey installation.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. I never really thought about the rest of the costs that come along with it. But you also have something called the Zero Waste Pantry Initiative, right? Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that's what I'm really excited about now because our company has really evolved over the years. It's not just a water and ice and sparkling water company, and that's what it was for a long time. It was just all things water, all things having to do with water. Like I said, ice, sparkling, flavored sparkling. We've evolved the business. So once we were in these corporate break rooms, we realized that we have their trust, we have their ear, we're a vendor. And as fate would have it, the pandemic actually helped us in a way. And it sounds odd to say it that way because it was a terrible time. Um, and it was hard for office service companies like ours, except we did innovate. So I have to share this nugget with you because this is really a kind of a cool story on how we grew. And during the pandemic, a Forbes had put out an article was talking about the germiest touch points in an office, and the water cooler was one of the germiest touch points. So it took me back to my OR days, and a surgeon, after he scrubs in, can no longer touch the faucet if he wants to rinse his hands. So he would step on a floor pedal, and that floor pedal would release the water so that he could wash his hands sterilely. So I said to my partners, the blue collar, and I'm like, how do we do that with our machines? God bless him, he figured out a way to make these machines touchless by adding a floor pedal. So what that did was it allowed us to bring something of urgency to companies or essential workers that had to go to work, hospitals, FedEx, United Airlines type of companies that had to show up. And we gained these people as customers. So it allowed us to hire people where everybody else was firing people. And so I tell you that story to tell you that we hired a great guru in the coffee world who brought us a bean to cup setup, and he kind of knew everything about coffee. Like, our learning curve was nil because this guy came on board. So we always knew that was an obvious vertical for us, but we didn't know how to really execute. And I was most worried about the service piece because that's really who we are at the end of the day as a service company. So to kind of bring it all into the Zero Waste Pantry, we started doing coffee. It was a bean to cup coffee system, not the Keurigs, not the Nespresso pods. Those are the opposite of green. Those are very wasteful, actually, and the coffee is pre-ground, and it's really not even good coffee. Back to the microplastics again, too, for our own body. You're absorbing plastic, people. Every time you drink a Keurig or an espresso pod, you are absorbing that plastic in your cup. I'm sorry to tell you this, but it's true, and they're pretty expensive. Following that, we brought in a great disposable guy who knew about the cups, plates, napkins, forks, snacks, and just kind of rounded out the whole pantry. But again, had to stick to the sustainability piece. Otherwise, it would have been really off brand. So all of our disposable items now, all the things I just mentioned, cups, plates, napkins, forks, garbage bags, hand towel rolls, all these things are all sustainable, compostable items. So they are not made from plastics, of course, many of which are tree-free too. So it's super quality for the environment. We're using PLA, which is polylactic acid. We're using bamboo. We're using sugar cane. We're using all kinds of natural ingredients. And the best part, I think, well, not the best part, one of the best parts, is that it's not like your paper straws that are going to disintegrate in your cup. They're plastic feel, but they're not plastic. So everything that we do now caters to the entire break room. So you have your water, you have your ice, you have your coffee, you have your snacks, which are single ingredient snacks. I remember you said you're from California. We partnered with a great company out there called Sun and Swell. They have single ingredient snacks that are very healthy for you, like pineapple rings and mangoes and things like that. Delicious, one ingredient, so it's healthy. And even the wrappers are compostable, or we load them into gravity fed dispensers using bulk packaging and then reusing that so that you can, go to this gravity fed dispenser, twist the knob, get your, trail mix into a compostable bowl, and then dump that bowl into a compost. So it's all zero waste to landfill. And let me just finish by saying the cherry on top is we provide metric reporting each quarter so that you know your environmental impact, how many trees you've saved, CO2 emissions, plastic ton diverted, kilowatt hour reduction, this sort of thing. And that, I think, has become a real game changer for us as we partner with firms in not only helping meet their sustainability and wellness goals, and increasing their service needs, but also giving them vital information that can help them tell a corporate story or report that information to their building landlord, which in places like New York has become a local mandate. So we really have partnered with these companies in doing so.
That's great. Yeah, and we actually have clients that have those types of break rooms, so I wonder if they are working with you guys. I've seen it as you were describing it. I was like, oh yeah, we
Yeah.
definitely have some clients that do that. But I think that a lot of them now are really trying to be mindful about their footprint as a business, and so they're doing a lot of those internal tweaks. So I think that's very, very relevant to what we're seeing with businesses and at least our clients, kind of being mindful of that. And I wanted to talk a little bit about scaling with you, but you already kind of talked about how you've pivoted and partnered with others and kind of diversified. So unless there's anything more to add, what
Well,
I guess go ahead, go ahead. Yeah.
there is, and I won't dwell, but I've really enjoyed growing as a CEO and as a business owner. When I first started, I felt almost like a fraud to call myself a CEO. I'm like, I haven't earned that title, like lofty title, but you really do learn, and I do highly recommend for any listener out there who's looking to become a business owner or something like that. It really helps to align yourself with strategic people that can help you get there. Meaning people that are in similar spaces as you or verticals that call on the same type of people. For us, facilities folks and operations people are usually our contacts. So you want to align yourself with other businesses that might be calling on the same type of people. Like, for instance, commercial moving for us, we deal with a few folks in that space, and I refer to them and they refer to me. So really the bottom line there is networking. It's so critical if you want to scale and grow your business. If you want to get somewhere, you can go alone, but if you want to get far and quicker, you want to go with others. I think that's kind of a cliche phrase you may have heard before. But I highly encourage strategic partnerships and alliances for companies that are really looking to grow and really earn trust quickly, which is so critical to doing business. And it's really helped me not only just do business, but learn how to become a better leader and a better businessman by surrounding myself with other leaders like that. So just another, I guess, nugget that you can offer other people that are listening.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that imposter syndrome that you talked a little bit about is something very, very common with business owners and not just ones that are starting up. I think it's one of those things that when you are an adult, I mean, you talked about approaching the big 4-0 and everything. I kind of sometimes feel it like I've been an adult for longer than I've been not an adult, and I still don't feel like I am. So there's always that feeling of, am I really, have I earned this? But sometimes, there are things that you pick up along the way that can help you with that, which is what you were mentioning is surrounding yourself with strategic people that are going to help move you further than just kind of getting there on your own and keep learning. That's another thing that you were kind of alluding to is, hey, yeah, I know that you do feel like maybe I need to earn this title, but at the same time, you did a lot of that by taking that leap, and I think people underestimate that a little bit. Taking that leap and betting on yourself and moving forward with an idea or a passion or whatever the reasons are that people start their own companies, but they see a need, whatever it is, that in and of itself, you have the right to call yourself the business owner there. So
Yeah.
I do think
Mhm.
that we see a lot of that. Hey, I don't know if I'm good enough or whatever that voice is, that hey, accepting that I stepped out and did this, and that is in and of itself big enough to be able to say I can call myself the CEO of my company because essentially that's what it is. And two, I'm going to surround myself with people that are going to align with what I'm doing, share similar, like you said, call in similar markets, things like that, similar customers, and they don't necessarily have to do what you do, but they can be in that vertical. I think that's really great advice. So what's on the road ahead for you? What do you guys what's next for Hydrate?
Yeah, there's a lot of great things hopefully coming up. We've definitely started to work with some of the biggest companies in the world. Frankly, we do work with JP Morgan, Kirkland and Ellis, one of the world's largest law firms. And we've had to, as a result, we just did a deal with the Brooklyn Nets locally here. We've had to get a larger warehouse, which I was at this morning. We just cut the ribbon on that about a week ago, so very exciting. And the company is just kind of growing. We've finally got into the e-com world where it's allowing our people to easily order snacks and supplies and other, coffee beans, etc. Just to kind of step into the 21st century a little bit more and give them that sort of convenience like Amazon would. So I think it's about, kind of optimizing and improving the experience for others And we always believe in people over profits. It's one of our mantras here. So service is always going to be a backbone of what we do, and it's always about bolstering that backbone by bringing on great, passionate people that are customer service related people, front facing folks like our technicians who are outstanding. We maintain a 5-star rating if you Google us, and it has so much to do with our techs that are out in the field that really stop at nothing to make sure the job is done right. So for us, we're going to continue to grow and expand. Right now, our boots are on the ground as far east as the Hamptons, as far north as sort of Poughkeepsie / Connecticut, east, Western Connecticut, and then all the way out to Philly and south to about exit 6 or 7 on the Pike. So if you're familiar with the Northeast or the greater metropolitan region, that's our footprint now, but there is a call to expand further north and south and even west. So we're going to continue to grow. We have a great mission, we believe, and we've executed pretty well over the last 8 years. And so it makes sense to continuously forge ahead. But I will say, on a personal note, I've held back. I do have 3 small kids myself, and I think it's so critical to maintain a work-life balance, even when you are a CEO or a business owner or a business leader of any kind. And the business is always begging for your attention, just like my 3-year-old. There's no question about it. You can give all of your time to your business and be super successful, but I don't really define success necessarily on a dollar amount, partly why I put people over profits sometimes, because I think their needs matter and my kids' needs matter. So I do coach my son's basketball team, and I do coach my other son's football team, and I have to make time for that. And that's really important to me. And it levels me, and it gives me enough ability on a daily basis to feel like my cup is full enough to go ahead and pour out again the next day, if that makes sense. So I just encourage people out there to, like, if you have kids, if you have family, or even just close friends or relatives, that you really try to intentionally spend time, and don't just give everything to the business itself, because if you empty yourself, what good are you to the business? You don't need burnout. This is a marathon we're running, not a sprint. So I think it's really critically important to have that work-life balance as much as you can.
That's great, and I was actually gonna ask you about if you had any advice, and I think that that's something that is very, very good that people don't necessarily think about. I think when people look at starting their own business, they think more freedom, and I get to do what I want. Well, it does give you more control, certainly, but not necessarily more freedom. And so I think that having to say that this needs to be prioritized, the family side of things and things that fill you, whether it's your kids or your family or whatever it is, things that fill you for yourself, separate from the business, because there are parts of business that can fill you, but things that are separate from that also require just as much priority and attentiveness and passion to pursue than a lot of times the business, so that you can be better for that. So I think that's a really great lesson to learn. But are there any other lessons that you've learned that you wish you had known earlier, just to kind of, like I said, tell everybody what it takes out there to be a business owner?
Yeah, at first it was really difficult to, hire other people, just because, first of all, it's like your baby. You want to be passionate and take care of it. You don't want anybody else coming in and sort of messing it up. Steve Jobs was famous for saying, "We don't hire good people to tell them what to do. We hire good people to tell us what to do." And the minute I started to hire good people, and I mean good people, and by the way, I should say 35 people work here, and I think about 33 of them come from word of mouth, which means that somebody who works here said, "Hey, my buddy this, or my sister, or my relative, or whatever." And we have a really great family feel here, which I think is fairly rare for a company of our size. When you first start, scrappy startups always kind of feel like a family, but we're over 30 people, and we have that vibe still. So what I would just say is, and it's kind of links to your last point about sort of being free and independent, I'm only allowed to step away from the business and the business not suffer and fail because I have good people working here now. So if I cut out at 3 rather than 7, like I did in the beginning, I can not only be with my family, but I have people here that are working for me. And it's not just like, okay, yeah, here you go. It was like are they meeting our values, right? We have to have core values. I think that's something I would establish early. There's a EOS, entrepreneurial operating system, that I would recommend for people. The book called Traction, excellent book. If you haven't read that or picked it up, my whole leadership team, we read through it together. We did like a whole workshop week in and week out, like kind of learning who we are, what we were about, creating a scorecard, all these really cool things. And then it really kind of taught me a lot about how to run a business and run it effectively, and either affirm things that we are doing or, kind of put things away that aren't, which is also helpful. But then, like I said, as you're able to kind of, do well and model the appropriate behavior and kind of establish yourself as a business, don't be afraid to bring on other great people. Don't be afraid about what it might quote unquote cost you to hire them, because I know budgets are always tight unless you have great investors, which we certainly didn't. We funded it all ourselves from the beginning. But like, these people can take you much further, hit your goals much faster. We've grown like 100% almost year over year until last year, which, that's not sustainable to grow 100% after year sometimes. But but the point is, like, bringing on these great people have helped us grow. They've allowed me to become a more, free to do the things that I actually love to do, with not just outside the business, but within the business. I don't have to wear every hat anymore. And you do want to like save up that energy, because again, we are running a marathon. So my advice is, like, surround yourself with passionate, good people that meet your values. First, you might want to establish those values first, core values. What are you about? Who are you? What is your company built on? For us, being a family vibes and all that were so near and dear to me and my partner, who me and him are like brothers, literally. So we kind of wanted to continue to foster and develop an atmosphere and a culture like that. And so just surrounding ourselves with people that are like-minded has not only allowed us to do what we wanted, we can trust these people, and they are representing us extremely well. So it doesn't take you backwards; it actually takes you forwards. Don't worry about the dollar amount. Your company, if you have the right people, will grow as a result of having those great people, and it will free you up to do the things you might love to do. Like for me, with my kids, I couldn't do it. I would have to be here at my desk all night, like I was in the beginning. And now I don't have to be, because, like I said, I have others that can help. So.
Yeah, well, there's something to that too. I think there's a period of paying your dues and,
Yeah, yeah.
really letting yourself do what needs to be done sometimes. And sometimes that requires more hours. Sometimes that requires doing jobs that you don't love and wearing all the hats and whatever. But if you're doing that over a long period of time and you're not seeing a relief from that, then there is a moment where you do kind of have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, I think I'm part of that problem. I'm perpetuating this and I need to be doing something different here in order to shift that so that we can grow, because you're really not going to be able to if you continue down that route.
100%. And that, just to that end, and I'll just cap by saying, like, I had believed that that was the way for the first 2.5 years. I had like one other employee and then one other salesman I brought on to help me out. Like, and then I'm like, well, if this is working, like, why wouldn't it keep working? And now I put in my dues. I built, put the first 500 systems in myself. My business partner installed them. But like, now it's time to like train and trust others and basically replace yourself in a way. And that allows you to really be able to scale the business. Because if you are a one or two man show, how can you really grow it that much? You're capping your growth effectively. And that may not be for you, by the way. You may not want to grow it. You may want to wear those hats and do those things, but be prepared to sacrifice somewhere, because it's always going to be a sacrifice. It's probably your personal life, which, like I said, for me was critically important. But you just know thyself and try to do your best to not burn yourself out, especially because I think you never get anywhere behind that.
That's it. That's what it is right there. You're gonna sacrifice somewhere, but you get to decide where it's gonna be, whether personally or in your business or somewhere else.
Choose your heart, as they say.
Absolutely. Wow, what an inspiring conversation. Thank you so much, Ralph. I love how Hydrate isn't just about providing better water, it's about creating a better future, one bottle saved at a time. So Ralph's story is such a great example of how passion, innovation, and a commitment to sustainability can drive real change. So if you're inspired as I am, uh, Ralph, how can people find you or Hydrate?
Yeah. So thanks. If you go on our website, I think that can help you navigate the whole zero waste pantry most concisely. So that's Hydr8. It's HYDR, the number 8, spelt phonetically. There's a whole story behind that too. I won't get into right now. And that's .us, as in hydrate us. So www.hydrate.us. And then we also have a pretty solid following on LinkedIn. Less on the Instagram and the Facebook world, just because it's a B2B company, not B2C. Unfortunately, I don't do residential anymore. We did in the beginning, and that was one of the things we had to learn the hard way, is like the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. And, you got to just kind of, feel these things out. But I do have a passion. I would love to be able to hydrate homes on a large scale, maybe a DIY setup where our techs wouldn't be bogged down installing and servicing. But we're working on that. So that could be on the horizon, actually, one of these days. It's something I'm passionate about.
That's great. Well, you'll find all the links in the show notes. We'll go ahead and post them there. But thank you so much for tuning into this episode of What It Takes. Don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, please leave us a review. It really helps us reach more listeners like you. So until next time, keep building, growing, and keep doing what it takes to make your vision a reality. See you soon. Would you or someone you know like to be featured on this podcast? Our applications are now open. Apply today at seekersolution.com and click on the podcast link to get started.